six-day apocalypse to the Iranian regime. If you do so much as harm one naval asset in that strait, 20 times harder we're going to hit you. And now look at this. Now it's back down to 81. And of course, it's not perfect. It's got to go a little bit lower. It's got to go lower still, yeah. Still a ways to go. But look at that. Now, can I be honest here? Can I be honest? I want to share with you how much I believe in our administration. On Monday morning, I bet in the markets. I'm not going to tell you exactly what I bet, how much, or what I did. I made a decent amount of money. I did. Personally, I made a decent amount of money Monday morning betting against these panicans in the markets, You had panicans losing their mind. The markets were in turbulence. This is Sunday night going into Monday morning. I said, remain cool, relax. I made a little bit of money. This was an opportunity here. These people are losing their damn minds. These people are out of their gourds. Now, so thank you, panicans. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, panicans. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. And you can actually see, look at this over here. This is the Strait of Hormuz. This is a Chinese vessel, Chinese vessel, Chinese vessel. The IRGC, they have said we are going to allow Chinese ships to continue going on through. So it seems like right now we've got Chinese vessels that are sailing through the Hormuz with their transponders on. We also know there are a lot of non-Chinese ships sailing through the Hormuz with their transponders off. And now 40 minutes ago, we've officially got the confirmation the U.S. Navy is now escorting ships through. So I think we can expect to see these oil prices, these crude oil futures continue to go down. Continue to go down. Trump is solving this problem. Trump is solving this problem. Yes, he is. Wonder what's up with the Kurds. I'll tell you, President Trump actually 4 days ago explicitly said that he does not want the Kurds getting involved. Trump said that. Trump said the Kurds were willing to get involved. They were ready to go. He said, you know what, we don't want to make this any more complex. So Trump kind of shut that one down about 4 days ago now. About 4 days ago. Now we also hear something else I wanted to show you here, folks. Right now we are waiting for White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt. This is the Iranian strategy. The Iranian strategy here, folks. Iran is wagering it can outlast the U.S. and Israel by grinding the war into a brutal contest of endurance, namely by cutting energy routes and jolting global markets hard enough to force Washington to blink first. Okay, folks, what seems to be the case to me is that the entire Iranian strategy here is really based around the Strait of Hormuz. Issue enough threats, and by the way, it's not just threats, it's not empty threats. They have fired upon at least 10 tanker vessels going through the strait over the last 10 days. In fact, they sank one of them. We have a confirmation. So they have. There is reason to be concerned, and this is a problem that needs to be solved. It seems like it is being solved, but it's not empty threats. They have taken shots at these vessels, and this seems to be the entire Iranian strategy. Is attempt to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, cause so much economic turbulence that Trump says, okay, we're out. Okay, we're done. I don't want to deal with the economic turbulence. And so right now, I'll tell you what is kind of embarrassing for the Iranian regime is that if their entire strategy is based around shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, they have failed. This strait is getting reopened. It is, one way or another, and slowly, day by day, it is reopening. If their entire strategy here was to bring this thing to a shutdown, They have failed, and they're failing more so every single day. Now, folks, we have a very small red alert right now. Don't worry too much about this one. It's over. It's over already on the confrontation line up north. Don't worry about that one. Here's what I'll tell you. If the Iranian regime realizes that they are not in control of the Hormuz, that Trump is in fact in control of the Hormuz, that is going to be a serious blow to the psychology, to the brain of the Iranian regime. You understand? If their entire approach, their entire strategy is centered around maintaining a Hormuz shutdown, and then they realize that they don't even have the capacity to do that, they are not in control, Trump is in control, you know that's going to be a crippling blow. They're going to realize, oh my gosh, our entire strategy has fallen apart. We couldn't even shut down the Hormuz if we wanted to. Trump has forcibly reopened it. And he is. And the market knows it. We've got photos and videos and reports showing that. This strait is getting reopened. It's not all the way open yet. Not all the way. But we're moving in that direction. They are losing their grip on the Hormuz. They are losing their grip on the Hormuz, undeniably so. Redacted News bragged that the USA had over 1,000 casualties from Iran. They could not be more retarded. I'll tell you something here. You're starting to realize, for all of us that are paying attention here, give me a one if you're paying attention, looking at the entire playboard here. We have a lot of entities here in America, podcasters, talking heads in the media, news organizations, whatever, politicians, entities here in the USA, Americans. And it's almost like they want the USA to lose. It's almost like we have Americans in this country, both on the left and on the right. And it's almost like they're sitting here on the edge of their seat. They're giddy as a schoolgirl, hoping that Trump...
Spring, the unofficial new year for tool people. A time to start new jobs, tackle new projects, and stock up on new tools at Harbor Freight. Whether you're a pro or just like doing things yourself, we've got the quality tools and savings to start your new year off right. So come celebrate spring savings at Harbor Freight.
People are psychotic. I think a lot of eyes are being opened up right now. You can see it. They want to have their big "I told you so" moment on the back of 100 dead Americans or 1,000 dead Americans. They're desperate for it. These people are sick. We have a big super chat here from Curtis. Thank you, Curtis. Good morning. Good morning, sir. Good morning. He says, AI videos of Iran taking out Israel are rumors of war. People are taking the bait. There's a lot of bait out there these days. Thank you, Curtis. Good to see you. I hope everything is fine. Continued prayers and thoughts. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll tell you what, folks. Carolyn Levitt is about 12 minutes behind schedule. That's okay. That's not that bad. We are on standby. Standby here for Mrs. Levitt. We have another super chat here from Kimberly Kelly. Thank you, Kimberly Kelly. She says, Matt, does China need to safely move through there too? If that, why their transponders are on? China, yes. So China is, out of all the players involved in this dynamic in the Middle East, China is perhaps the most negatively impacted, other than Iran, of course, other than Iran themselves. And the reason why is because China, every single year, gets around 15% of their oil from the Persian Gulf. Comes from the Persian Gulf, which you got to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And so China's very unhappy about this. China also, you might note, has close ties to the Iranian regime. China has effectively been propping up and working with the Iranian regime for a very long time. In a lot of ways, the Iranian regime is a proxy of China. Everybody says Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis, these are proxies of the Iranian regime, but in a lot of ways, the Iranian regime is a proxy of China. You got proxies and proxies and proxies. They've been propped up and making deals for a very long time. Now, a big development in the last 24 hours is that the Iranian regime has actually told China, we are going to allow Chinese vessels in and out. China can come in and out as they want. That Chinese vessels will not be fired upon. That is a statement from the Iranian regime. So there's a reason why we're starting to see Chinese vessels navigate through the Strait of Hormuz out in the open. And it's because they have been given the green light from their good friends, the Iranians. The Iranians have given them permission, and we can see that publicly here. The other non-Chinese tanker vessels, they're still flipping off their transponders. They're going ghost. They're going dark. They're going dark. But we are seeing more and more and more vessels navigate through the Hormuz. Really hour by hour at this point. Okay, folks, I have a report here, and I'm going to share this with you. This is coming from Reuters. Take this as you will. Reuters has just reported as many as 150 U.S. troops wounded in the Iran war. This is a Reuters report coming 9 minutes ago. Reuters says as many as 150 U.S. troops wounded in the Iran war. Prior to seeing this, we already knew it was a couple dozen, with seven casualties, and then a couple dozen wounded soldiers as well. Reuters is now saying that number is 150 wounded. So I'm going to look for a confirmation here, folks. That's one source. We always like to have multiple sources. We hope not. We are praying not. We are praying not. But I'm keeping everybody posted here. A lot of the stuff I am sure that Carolyn Levitt is going to talk about or get asked by the media at least. We are waiting for her to come on out any moment now. Won't be long there. Of course, we have a live feed of Tel Aviv in Israel. We have a live feed of Beirut, Lebanon, folks. We have heard from Secretary of War earlier today that tonight, it's nighttime in the Middle East, tonight is going to be the biggest, the largest U.S. bombing campaign against the Iranian regime to date. Tonight. Bombs are going to be, missiles are going to be flying, bombs are going to be dropping more so than ever on IRGC targets across the country. That's coming from the horse's mouth. The horse in this case is Pete Hegseth. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth saying tonight is going to be the most aggressive night we've ever had. So we're going to be here all day covering all of this as it comes out, step by step, minute by minute. Everyone here together. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Okay, I have a report coming from CBS less than a minute ago, 42 seconds ago. Breaking news. According to CBS, U.S. intelligence assets have begun to see indications that Iran is taking steps to deploy mines in the Strait of Hormuz shipping lanes. We'll talk about that more later.
Let's begin with some scheduling updates. Tomorrow, President Trump will travel to the great states of Ohio and Kentucky, where he will tout his economic victories and detail the administration-wide efforts to continuing lowering prices to make everyday life more affordable for working Americans. The president will visit Thermo Fisher Scientific in Ohio and give remarks at Verst Logistics in Kentucky. On Thursday, President Trump and the First Lady will host a Women's History Month event in the East Room. And on Friday, the president will sign several executive orders, and we will provide more details on those later this week. As President Trump shared with the American people last night, the United States military is making tremendous strides towards achieving our military objectives for Operation Epic Fury. 10 days in, this campaign has been a resounding success thus far, and America's warriors are winning this important fight at an even faster pace than we anticipated. More than 5,000 enemy targets have been struck so far. Iran's ballistic missile attacks are down more than 90%, and their drone attacks are down by approximately 85% since the start of Operation Epic Fury. The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy, and we have destroyed more than 50 Iranian naval vessels, including a major drone carrier ship. None of the regime's vessels are operating in major regional waterways, and the Iranian Navy has been assessed as combat ineffective. The trend is clear. U.S. combat capabilities are increasing and growing more lethal and dominant by the day, while the Iranian terrorist regime's ability to respond has rapidly declined. Now, the U.S. military is moving to dismantle Iran's missile production infrastructure. Our incredible
HVAC's got motive, but that ductwork, it's hiding something.
Frank, a virtual energy audit could help solve your efficiency quest.
Dominion Energy will send you a kit and help you identify the real suspects.
And his commitment toward keeping oil flowing through the Strait of Hormuz so the United States and all of our allies can receive their energy needs. President Trump will not allow rogue Iranian terrorists to stop the freedom of navigation and the free flow of energy. Let me be clear. It is a good thing to wipe out terrorists who indiscriminately target civilians and attempt to hold the global economy hostage, and President Trump should be commended for doing so. As the president made unequivocally clear to the remaining elements of this terrorist regime in his statement yesterday, if they do anything to stop the flow of oil or goods within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the world's most powerful military 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far. Moving forward, the stated objectives for Operation Epic Fury remain the same: destroy the terrorist regime's ballistic missiles, raise their Iranian missile industry to the ground, ensure their terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region, and ensure that Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. President Trump remains confident these goals will be accomplished in swift fashion. As for the oil, President Trump fully expected the rogue Iranian regime to try and disrupt the global markets. That's why President Trump and his energy team have been planning for this long before the strike and have moved quickly to address these temporary disruptions. Thus far, the Trump administration has offered political risk insurance to tankers operating in the Gulf. The Treasury temporarily waived certain oil-related sanctions, and the Commander-in-Chief has offered the U.S. Navy to escort tankers when necessary. The president and his energy team are closely watching the markets, speaking with industry leaders, and the U.S. military is drawing up additional options following the president's directive to continue keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. I will not broadcast what those options look like, but just know the president is not afraid to use them. Rest assured to the American people, the recent increase in oil and gas prices is temporary, and this operation will result in lower gas prices in the long term. Once the national security objectives of Operation Epic Fury are fully achieved, Americans will see oil and gas prices drop rapidly, potentially even lower than they were prior to the start of the operation. And we will live in a world where Iran can no longer threaten the United States or our allies with a nuclear bomb. On another matter here at home, President Trump is urging Congress to pass the Save America Act, one of the most critical pieces of legislation in our nation's history. The Save America Act is overwhelmingly popular with all Americans because each provision is rooted in common sense. The Save America Act has 5 simple requirements as requested by the President of the United States. Number 1, voters have to show ID to cast a ballot in an American election. Very simple. 90% of Americans, including more than 80% of Democrat voters, agree with this. Number 2, the Save America Act will require all voters to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote in American elections. Again, this is popular and rooted in common sense. Only American citizens have the right to vote in American elections. But after Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens into our country, it's more important than ever to ensure that only American citizens are registering to vote on our nation's voter rolls, and Congress needs to pass this. Number 3, the Save America Act abolishes the incredibly unsecure practice of universal mail-in ballots, which throw the door wide open for fraud. Importantly, the Save America Act maintains exceptions for Americans to use mail-in ballots for illness, disability, military, or travel reasons. The bipartisan 2005 report of the Commission on Federal Election Reform, chaired by, of all people, former President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker, concluded that, quote, absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud.
That's
and
right.
It is time for Congress to finally address this. Number 4, the Save America Act permanently bans men from competing in women's sports. President Trump signed a landmark executive order upholding the promise of Title IX and ending this dangerous and unfair practice. But now it's time for Congress to codify this into law. Number 5, the Save America Act bans transgender mutilation surgery for children. Again, President Trump signed a common sense executive order to do this and kept his promise to the American people, but now Congress needs to do the same and codify it. It's well past time for Democrats in Congress to stop perpetuating the radical and false claim that you can somehow change a child's sex. You cannot. Passing the Save America Act is the most important thing that Republicans and frankly Democrats can do to strengthen election integrity and protect our democracy. It's what the American people elected Republicans to do, and they must deliver on it as soon as possible. The president is calling on Congress to get the job done and send this historic piece of legislation to his desk immediately for signature. So with that today, I will take your questions. Benny, thank you for being here, and why don't you start us off?
Thank you, Caroline. So my first question is actually about the Save America Act. So one of the biggest things that the Democrats are saying, the claims that they're making, is that the Save America Act, it would prevent married women from voting in elections or make it harder for them. What do you have to say to those claims? Is there any validity to them, and where do you think they're getting this from?
There is zero validity to these claims, and I'm glad that you brought them up, because you have the Democrats who have created this myth, and it has been perpetuated, unfortunately, by many in the mainstream media. Let me be very clear. The Save America Act does not prohibit anyone from voting, with the exception of illegal aliens. And the greatest way to disenfranchise American citizens from voting in American elections is to allow illegal aliens to vote, which is what Democrats want to do. We see it taking place in Democrat jurisdictions at the state and local level across this country. So the Save America Act corrects that. And as far as married women who have changed their name, if they're already registered to vote, they're entirely unaffected by the SAVE Act. And for the small fraction of individuals who have changed their name or their address, they can still register to vote, of course. They just have to go through their state processes to update that documentation. And this is something that the American people, married women, and minorities, and people all across this country who Democrats are insultingly saying cannot do this, they're already doing it every day, going to the Social Security office, going to the DMV, and I think it's frankly insulting that the Democrats are saying that there's certain groups of people in this country who aren't smart enough to update their documentation to allow them to vote. Again, this is a huge myth, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address it.
Of course, and then just one more question about DHS. The funding issue has been 3+ weeks now. I was at the airport this morning in St. Louis, Missouri, and it was early in the morning, and one of the TSA agents, I saw she was kind of tearing up, she was crying, and I asked her, I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, I can't make my phone payment, I can barely make my car payment that's coming up. I think a lot in the Beltway, there's so much noise between Democrats, Republicans. It's the Democrats' fault, it's the Republicans' fault. But what is the White House's message to the American people that are struggling because they're not getting that paycheck? Take away the politics. What do you have to say to those people?
President Trump wants the Department of Homeland Security He wants TSA, he wants FEMA, he wants the brave men and women of our United States Coast Guard to receive their paychecks, and he wants this department to be fully funded and fully reopened. And so to any American out there who is struggling without a paycheck, we know there's more than 100,000 of you across the country. To any American out there who is showing up to an airport and facing incredibly long wait times and lines, call your Democrat member of Congress and tell them to fund the Department of Homeland Security. That's what President Trump wants to do, and it's completely ridiculous that the American people are suffering as a result of these partisan games that are being played by Democrats on Capitol Hill. Thank you. Steve.
You said the operation was going faster than anticipated. What is your current timeline for how long the war will last?
So look, as you know, Steve, the president and the U.S. military's initial timeline was about 4 to 6 weeks.
These are Hardee's Frisco breakfast sandwiches starting at just $3.99. This is our bacon, sausage, 100% Angus, and sourdough. The McNothing speaks for itself. The Frisco breakfast starting at just $3.99, only at Hardee's.
Brave warfighters are quickly and expeditiously executing these objectives well ahead of schedule, but ultimately the operations will end when the commander-in-chief determines the military objectives have been met, fully realized, and that Iran is in a position of complete and unconditional surrender, whether they say it or not.
Does the president still want Iran's unconditional surrender?
Well, when President Trump says that Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, he's not claiming the Iranian regime is going to come out and say that themselves. What the president means is that Iran's threats will no longer be backed by a ballistic missile arsenal that protects them from building a nuclear bomb in their country. I could make an empty threat, but if I have no actions to back it up, then it's an empty threat. And so President Trump will determine when Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, when they no longer pose a credible and direct threat to the United States of America and our allies. Adriana.
Can you explain why the Energy Secretary posted and then appeared to have deleted a post on X saying that the U.S. Navy escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes, I was made aware of this post. I haven't had a chance to talk to the Energy Secretary about it directly. However, I know the post was taken down pretty quickly, and I can confirm that the U.S. Navy has not escorted a tanker or a vessel at this time. So, of course, that's an option the president has said he will absolutely utilize if and when necessary at the appropriate time.
Something that was posted erroneously, could it be because of a staffer? What, I guess, will there be any consequences for this? I know you still have to consult, but just generally speaking.
Again, I would defer you to the Department of Energy to answer that question.
Follow up really quickly.
Sure.
In terms of oil sanctions, the president said that there would be some sanctions. What that would be lifted? Would those be on Venezuela, Russia? Could you give some specifics there and then timing for that as well?
Sure. I know it's something that the Treasury Department and the President's energy team continue to discuss, and they will ultimately consult with the President before decisions are made. I don't have any announcements on new sanctions or the lifting of new sanctions for you today. Alex.
Thank you. Reuters has reported that about 150 U.S. service members have been injured so far. Can you confirm that number and elaborate on that?
I can't confirm the exact number. I know it's within that ballpark, but I would defer you to the Pentagon for a specific number of wounded or injured thus far.
And then secondly, if I can, I wanted to ask about, there was a briefing on the Capitol Hill today, and some senators came out and said they were more convinced than ever that there would be U.S. boots on the ground. Senator Blumenthal said that, in fact. Your reaction to that and any update on President Trump's thinking about it?
Look, I would say that Democrats on Capitol Hill are clearly being quite disingenuous. 3 years ago, not a single Democrat voted against the resolution condemning Iran as the world's leading state sponsor of terror. Yet now, with President Trump as commander-in-chief finally taking the action that so many Democrats have called on the commander-in-chief to do for many, many years to wipe out the threat of a rogue Iranian terrorist regime. Now, all of a sudden, Democrats are playing politics with this long-standing bipartisan policy of the United States, and 53 of them in the House recently voted against the resolution condemning Iran as the world's state sponsor of terror. So I wouldn't take Democrats at their word. As for boots on the ground, the president has talked about this repeatedly. Wisely, he does not rule options out as commander-in-chief. So again, I would hesitate to confirm anything that a Democrat on Capitol Hill says right now about the president's thinking. Garrett.
Joan, you outlined to Steve the military components of what would be involved in ending this war, but it seems like there's a political component too. The president said to Fox earlier today that he doesn't believe the new Ayatollah can live in peace. He made a variety of comments suggesting that he should be involved in picking the new Iranian leader. Is the ending of this war also contingent on Iran selecting a leader that the president finds acceptable? And if so, how is that not the definition of a regime change war?
Look, as President Trump has blatantly and frankly stated, it's obviously within the best interest of the United States and the West to no longer have a radical terrorist in charge of Iran, especially as we see their reaction to Operation Epic Fury. They had their missiles turned towards our Gulf and Arab partners in the region. Again, this was a regime that chanted, or still chants, death to America. We look at the way that they are holding the entire world hostage with the restricting of the free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. So the president, I think, is making quite an obvious comment. Again, as for the timeline of the military operations with respect to Iran, we have objectives that we have laid out that the commander-in-chief wants to see achieved. When they are achieved, then it will ultimately be up to the president to end this operation.
Okay, so I think you're not exactly addressing my question, though. Is that political objective also necessary for the president to decide to end this war?
Look, again, I just told you the objectives of Operation Epic Fury. When those objectives are met, the president will dictate the end of these operations when he deems that Iran no longer poses a credible threat to the United States of America. And again, it goes back to what does that unconditional surrender look like? Iran can talk all they want and their words will be very empty when we've completely annihilated their navy as we are doing, when we've taken out the threat of their ballistic missile capability, when we can finally ensure that they can no longer make a nuclear bomb to threaten the United States and our allies and our troops in the region. And that's what President Trump is ultimately seeking to do with respect to this operation. Jennifer.
There was a shooting outside of a synagogue in Baltimore. Do you know if the president has been briefed on that, and do you have any more details on what happened?
I don't, but we certainly will get you more details, Jennifer, and I don't know if the president has briefed, but I'll check on that when I get back to the Oval Office after this. Sure.
Yes, Caroline. The president said yesterday for the first time that he had to strike Iran because he believes that Iran was going to strike U.S. targets within 7 days. And then he bumped that down later to 3 days. Where is he getting that?
Well, that's not the first time the president has said that he chose to launch Operation Epic Fury because he felt as though Iran was going to strike the United States and our assets in the region first. Again, I addressed this in the last briefing. This was a feeling the president had based on facts provided to him by his top negotiators who had been engaged with the Iranian regime in a good faith effort. The Iranian regime was lying, deceiving the United States of America, clearly trying to continue their nuclear program to create a bomb that would, of course, threaten the United States of America. Again, their ballistic missile arsenal, they were rapidly and aggressively increasing that by the month to a place where they would essentially build immunity for themselves, where a future president or President Trump would not be able to launch this incredibly successful operation. And so the president, again, as I have reiterated and he has said, was not going to sit back and allow the Iranian regime to threaten or to attack the United States of America any longer.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary.
Leaders or Israeli leaders who are making those same claims. So is he making this up to justify his decision to go to war now?
The president is not making anything up, Nancy. He is looking at this every single day based on intelligence, based on facts, and based on intelligence that he himself and his negotiators have consumed based on their, again, negotiations with the rogue Iranian regime over the past year. And the president and his team tried in a good faith way to reach a diplomatic deal through peaceful means with the Iranian regime. And Iran chose this path to death and destruction. Iran wanted to attack the United States of America, and the president was not going to sit back and allow that to happen. He was not going to sit back and allow that to happen, and everyone in this room should be grateful for it. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. 2 questions for you. One has to do with a follow-up to your statement that you made at the beginning of the briefing regarding the Safe America Act. Yesterday, the Senate Majority Leader John Thune spoke on the effort to potentially have a filibuster broken, the rules for the filibuster broken. He said the votes aren't there, one, to nuke the filibuster, and the votes aren't there for a talking filibuster. He says that's the reality.
Are you 50 or older? You already know the importance of shingles protection. Did you know pneumococcal pneumonia vaccination is recommended too? Why?
Behind his need to pass the Save America Act and his desire to get this country-saving legislation passed has been made quite clear. He wants all options on the table, and he wants the Senate to move as quickly as possible through whatever means necessary.
And then secondly, just regarding the president's trip tomorrow, looking ahead, why Ohio and why Northern Kentucky?
Well, why not? These are two great states with great Americans.
Just wanted to know why they were chosen.
Great states with great Americans. The president will be joined by lawmakers from both states who he greatly admires and respects and supports. And he'll be meeting with business owners in both of these places and talking about the economy, which is, of course, the utmost importance to him.
Last week, the Energy Secretary issued a waiver for India to get oil, Russian oil, during this energy crisis.
Yes.
Have you spoken to the President about it? What's the idea behind this?
Have I spoken to the president about it?
Yes.
Yes, I have spoken to the president about it. And the president and the Secretary of Treasury and the whole national security team came to this decision because our allies in India, as you know, Lalit, have been good actors and have previously stopped buying sanctioned Russian oil. So as we work to appease this temporary gap of oil supply around the world because of the Iranians, we have temporarily permitted them to accept that Russian oil. And this Russian oil was already at sea. It was already out on the water. So this short-term measure, we don't believe it will provide significant financial benefit to the Russian government at this time.
I have one more question about Pakistan. You know, Pakistan is a neighbor of Iran, and Pakistan is also an ally of U.S. President has been praising a lot about the field marshal. Is Pakistan providing any kind of support in this war against Iran?
That I will have to check on with the Pentagon and get back to you shortly.
The president said yesterday that President Putin told him he wanted to be helpful in the Middle East. The Kremlin put out a statement where Putin said, quote, "I would like to reaffirm our unwavering support for Tehran and our solidarity with Iranian friends." How does the president think that Russia could be helpful, if not helping Iran? And did the president push Putin on Russia sharing intelligence with Iran in this war?
The president and his special envoy Witkoff have both said that, of course, they've sent a message to Russia that if that was taking place, it's not something they would be happy with, and they hope that it is not taking place. As for further details about the discussions between these two leaders, I'll leave it to the president to divulge any more of that conversation, but he did confirm it yesterday and provided you with a little bit of the background in his view and his perspective, as he always does.
Regarding the missile strike on the Iranian school, how long does the administration expect that investigation to take, and will the White House or the Department of Defense release a full report of its findings once the investigation is complete?
The Department of War will do that. The investigation continues, and as the president said yesterday at his press conference, he will accept the conclusion of that investigation, whatever it may be. We'll go to the back row for some love. Sure, in the back with the glasses. Go ahead.
Regarding the shield of the
Sitting
Americas.
Carolyn,
is
and
there
then you can go, but go first.
Okay, thank you.
Is there an update regarding
You have rough real estate back there, so I'm
Is
trying to give you
is
some
there an
love.
update regarding Cuba, and also is an economic deal imminent?
Sure. I don't have any updates on Cuba for you today. Obviously, this is something the administration is actively dealing with. The president's made it quite clear it's his belief, based on fact, that the Cuban regime is bound to fall. The country is obviously in a very weak place. Economically speaking, the people are crying out for help, and the president believes and knows that the Cuban regime wants a deal. So as you know, Secretary of State Rubio has been engaged in those conversations as directed by the president. I don't have any updates for you today, though.
Thank you, Caroline. Regarding the Shield of the Americas, the initiative by President Trump this weekend, big names, a lot of countries, but some notable absences. For instance, Colombia, which is a key ally with the United States in terms of counter-narcotics, and President Gustavo Petro was here at the White House and he met with President Trump. Why wasn't Colombia invited to the Shield of the Americas?
I don't think we're seeing the level of cooperation we quite want to see yet from the Colombian government to invite them to the Shield of America's event and pact, but we certainly hope that this newfound organization will expand and we can continue to invite additional member countries. But there was quite a few countries there. I believe there were 17 countries represented, 12 heads of state with the president over the weekend. They signed a defense agreement with all of our militaries to emphasize the need to combat drug cartels through Latin America and the Western Hemisphere, and ultimately, of course, to curb the illegal trafficking of drugs to the United States, which is the president's utmost priority in all of this. So it was a great event on Saturday, and we look forward to the coalition expanding. Kelly in the back.
Caroline, thank you. Good to see you. I want to get back to another question that was asked earlier. It talked about the political aspects, but there's also the ideological and the spiritual aspects of what Iran has said for 47 years. Death to America, death to Israel. And we've just finished talking about the fact that terror has been around the world. Iran has been the nexus of that in so many ways. Has the president stated clearly to the American people why this is such an imminent threat in order for Democrats on Capitol Hill and Republicans and the American people to understand how imminent the threat was?
I think he has, Kelly. I mean, you've heard from the president on an almost daily basis over the course of the past 10 days. You've heard it from me at this podium. You've heard it from the Secretary of War, the Secretary of State, the Vice President of the United States. You know, the president's top cabinet and his officials have been repeatedly explaining to the American public the threat that Iran has posed to our country in this moment, but of course over the course of the past 47 years. And their words, again, chanting death to America, speak for themselves. Go ahead. You can follow up.
Why the division within the American people? I realize that we have the people talking about the War Powers Act. They're talking about all kinds of issues. But have people forgotten just how imminent that threat was? If they keep saying death to America and death to Israel, they mean it.
Look, I don't think the American people have forgotten, but I think Democrats on Capitol Hill, they have not forgotten, but they are just so plagued with this resistance to President Trump on everything that they do, that again, they can't even rally behind the common sense, bipartisan, long-standing principle of the United States of America that Iran absolutely 2023 for a response of terror. And now in this year, under this president in 2026, 53 Democrats voted against that exact same resolution with the exact same language. I don't think that's a change in the threat that Iran has posed to the United States. I think it's a change in the Democrat Party's thinking and their vicious hatred for President Trump. Danny. Sure.
National threat level, following on Kelly, what's the national threat level right now because of this death to America, death to Israel issue?
I believe the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI have repeatedly and continuously provided updates on the threat level to the homeland. I don't want to speak on it out of turn from up here, but of course, the federal government is continuing to coordinate and partner with local law enforcement agencies across the ground to thwart potential threats to the homeland. This is something the administration obviously takes very seriously. We are thwarting threats that frankly most Americans don't know about because they never make headlines, but that's the great work that the Department of Homeland Security is doing, and it emphasizes and underscores the point of why Democrats need to fund and reopen fully the Department of Homeland Security right now.
School. Why did President Trump say yesterday that Iran may have Tomahawk missiles when there are only 3 other U.S. allies plus the U.S. that have those missiles and therefore could...
Look, again, as the president said yesterday, he will accept the conclusion of this investigation by the Department of War. I know there's been a lot of speculation in the media about who may be responsible for this. We're not going to get ahead of the Department of War and the conclusion of that investigation. The president has a right to share his opinions with the American public, but he has said he'll accept the conclusion of that investigation. And frankly, we're not going to be harassed by the New York Times, who's been putting out a lot of articles on this, making claims that have just not been verified by the Department of War, to quickly wrap up this investigation because the New York Times is calling on us to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Carolyn, with the DHS currently under a partial Democrat shutdown, does the administration have any specific concerns about potential impact on Homeland Security or intelligence monitoring of sleeper cells inside the United States? And do you have any comment on the bombing, the 2 individuals that bombed New York City, or tried to?
Yeah, it was absolutely despicable to see that attack in New York City. I know the FBI is investigating, and the Department of Justice and SDNY have announced they are charging those two individuals and alleged terrorists, and I know they won't rest until justice is sought in this case. Daniel.
Thank you, Caroline. Appreciate it. Millions of Americans are filing taxes for the first time since the president signed One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law. New reports say that new IRS data says that the average federal tax refund is around $3,800, a little bit up from the last period of last year. Does the president believe that the average federal tax refund increasing this year could provide a little bit more economic growth, something that he's been very focused on as the year progresses?
Absolutely. And Americans are going to start benefiting from the fruits of President Trump and Republicans' labor through the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill and these historic tax cuts. We are midway through tax season, so just to provide an update from the Treasury Department that just went out moments ago, nearly 63.5 million tax returns have been processed thus far, 45% of the anticipated total number of tax returns by April 15th, so don't forget to file your taxes, people. And the average refund this year is more than $3,700. And we know that more than 27.5 million individuals who have filed their tax returns thus far have claimed at least one of President Trump's new tax cuts. Over 3.5 million returns have claimed no tax on tips. Over 15.5 million returns have claimed no tax on overtime. Over 9.2 million returns have claimed the enhanced deduction for seniors. And over 690,000 returns have claimed no tax on car loan interest. And another amazing statistic, nearly 3.5 million Trump accounts have been opened for children in our country thus far. So we look forward to, I know the Treasury Department continues to look forward to seeing these checks go out the door and into the pockets of hardworking Americans, and the president will be meeting with them himself tomorrow on the road in both Ohio and Kentucky, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Caroline.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of updates. Things are happening today at a rate that we have never seen before.
Oh my God. So, I met an alien. His son.
Real news, fake news, we've got fact checking, we have breaking news developments, we have statements from the Pentagon, we have statements from the Iranian regime, we have statements about the current situation in the Hormuz. We have a lot to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. Do me a favor, if you're new to the show, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to subscribe and follow on Rumble. Thank you all very much for being here. We have a massive super chat from Sapper Jackson. Massive one. He says, the new Democrat oath to the detriment of the United States. Yeah, hey, very true. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Sapper Jackson. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Danielle Whitley. Daniel Whitley says Afghan pullout left billions in military assets behind as well, unguarded. Guaranteed they were found that way to Iran. $7 billion to be exact. It was almost like it was a gift to the Taliban. You're right. Thank you very much. In fact, I made a big post about that on Twitter last night. You guys really need to be following my Twitter page, Matt Morris TV on Twitter. I actually talked about that last night on a post that went viral last night. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, let me clue you guys in. We have a lot to talk about here. Okay, first off, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, he says that tonight, as in like right now, day 10 of the war is going to be the most intense day of strikes yet, adding that Iran stands alone and is suffering heavy losses. So that's why we are here today, ladies and gentlemen, doing live breaking coverage. We also have this fact check. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright, part of the Trump administration, said this on Twitter earlier today, and I reported on this. President Trump is maintaining stability of global energy during the military operations against Iran. He said the U.S. Navy successfully escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz to ensure oil remains flowing to global markets. So, about 90 minutes ago, I reported this to you guys live when he posted this. And we said, oh, this is a big development. The Navy is escorting tankers through the Hormuz. That's a big deal. He then deleted the post. U.S. Secretary of Energy Wright, Chris Wright, I think is his name, Chris. He deleted the post after saying that. And we just heard Carolyn Leavitt, the White House press secretary, say, this actually has not happened. The U.S. Navy has not yet, they might in the future, but they have not yet escorted tankers through the Hormuz. Very curious. I don't know why he posted this. I don't know who's lying, who's telling the truth. If it was somebody misspoke, I don't know what. We're going to wait for updates here. The Iranian regime saw that post, and they issued their own response. This is Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister of the Iranian regime. He said this in response. U.S. officials are posting fake news to manipulate the markets. It won't protect them from inflationary tsunami they have imposed on Americans. Markets are facing biggest shortfall in history, bigger than Arab oil embargo, Iran's Islamic Revolution, and the Kuwait invasion combined. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been saying this for days now. The Iranian regime's entire strategy, their strategy to win the war, or to at least get the U.S. to pull out and call this thing off, is to leverage the global economy. They're looking to cause as much economic chaos, economic turbulence, economic mayhem that they possibly can to put pressure on Trump. Oil prices are rising, and Trump says, okay, all right, we got to cool this off. We need to reopen up the Hormuz. Okay, we're done. Operation Epic Fury is over. We're going to back off in order to cool off the markets. That is the Iranian regime's strategy. And this is, of course, it's what they're doing. This is the reason for shutting down the Hormuz. That's their goal. What is the Iranian regime's goal with shutting down the Hormuz? Well, to skyrocket oil prices, duh. And then you look at their actions. That's their actions. They're trying to shut down the Hormuz. What are they saying? What are the words? Well, they're trying to hammer home this point. Economic turbulence, economic chaos, economic chaos. And so this is the Iranian foreign minister taking any opportunity he can. Now, unfortunately for them, Trump is opening up this strait. We're already seeing vessels go through the strait with their transponders off. It seems as if the Iranian regime's capacity to shut down the Strait of Hormuz is not exactly what they thought it was. The Iranian regime, they thought they were going to be able to institute a 100% shutdown and that the U.S. wouldn't be able to do anything about it. As it would turn out, it does seem as if the United States military is able to do something about it. It hasn't happened entirely yet, but the U.S., day by day, we are opening up this strait. It is happening, and more vessels are navigating through the strait in spite and in defiance of the wishes of the Iranian regime. It turns out the Iranian regime actually perhaps does not have the complete capacity to shut down the strait. Every single day, we're diminishing that capacity. Whatever capacity they have, it's getting diminished day by day. We have an update here coming out of the IDF. Take a look at this. Nearly 50% of the IRGC missiles launched at Israel are missiles with cluster munitions. Well, we've been sitting here debating, are they cluster munitions? Is it debris? What is going on up there? The IDF is now coming out and saying, yes, they are cluster munitions. In fact, 50% of their missiles are cluster munitions. Cluster munitions release dozens or hundreds of smaller bomblets over a wide area, sometimes 8 kilometers wide. 8 kilometers. Okay, I've got bad news here for you folks. The Pentagon has just come out and confirmed the Reuters report on casualties in Iran. Says in a statement, a Pentagon statement, approximately 140 U.S. service members have been wounded over 10 days of conflict. 140 wounded. We have had, terribly, I believe 7 casualties. Correct me if I'm wrong. 7 casualties. And the Pentagon says 140 people have been wounded. Okay? This was initially reported by Reuters about an hour ago. Now we have a Pentagon confirmation. So, terrible news, bad news. 7 casualties, 140 wounded. Okay. I want to show you something here. Talking about people getting wounded. The Iranian regime's capacity to fire off ballistic missiles and drones is getting severely diminished. Hold up, we've got people spamming the chat. Hey, why are people spamming the chat? Hold on here. Wait a minute. I see people are spamming and you shouldn't be doing that. Hold up, wait a minute. There you go. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the Iranian regime's capacity to fire off missiles and suicide drones is going down every single day. We have the numbers for March 9th. Today's March 10th. So yesterday's numbers are officially in. And right now we can see that yesterday the Iranian regime only fired 25 ballistic missiles. That's the red line, the red bar. 25 ballistic missiles and 55 suicide drones. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is, if this remains consistent, if these very low rates remain consistent, the Iranian regime is launching like 5% or something of what they were launching on day one. Within 10 days, they're launching, 5, 6, 7% of what they were on day one. That's wild. And of course, the reason why is because every single day, the U.S. Air Force, and of course the Israeli Air Force as well, were carrying out targeted strikes on IRGC locations, storage facilities, launch pads, everything. It's not just the machinery and the equipment that is needed to launch this stuff, but it's also the human element. Some human being has got to drive the truck out of the bunker. You put the missile on the back of the truck, you get inside.
Looking at some late night snacks? Me too. Let's get a pizza, 2 hoagie.
Into the field, and then walk out, get out of the cab, walk out, press the button, launch the missile. Well, we keep blowing those guys up. All of those ballistic missile truck drivers and drone launchers, they're getting blown up too. It's not just the missiles, it's the people that are launching the missiles. And so you can see here the numbers are going down big time. Big time reduction. Hold up, what is this? Breaking news. A major signal from inside of Iran. A political declaration has just emerged from Arab tribes in Iran's Khuzestan province, the country's most important oil-producing region. In the statement, they make several striking points. 1, they reject the Islamic Republic and call for the complete removal of the regime. 2, they demand a secular, democratic government based on human rights. They stress that Khuzestan is an inseparable part of Iran. They want unity. 4, they call for unity among all Iranian ethnic groups, including Kurds, Azeris, and the Baluch. 5, they express support for who? Reza Pahlavi, as a unifying national figure for a future transition. Khuzestan is not just another province, it's the heart of Iran's oil industry and one of the most strategically important regions in the country. When voices from inside of that region begin calling openly for a democratic future beyond the Islamic Republic, it potentially signals something much bigger. The cracks inside the regime's foundations may be widening. This is the statement released by them, and this is going viral. This has 37,000 likes, 1.6 million views. When we talk about viral, we're talking viral right now. Just so everybody, here at the Morse Learning Center, we are visual learners here. Why don't we pull this up? Khuzestan province in Iran. Aha! Ladies and gentlemen, this is the oil province. This is the nation of Iran right here, southwest side, Khuzestan. So it's predominantly Arab, and this is the #1 oil region in the country. Khuzestan. You can't help but notice, and it's right by Iraq, ancient Babylon, Kuwait is right there. What do you notice? What is right off the coast here? Just a hop, skip, and a jump away. There's that little island, Kark Island. Folks, what happens on Kark Island? Let's get rid of that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, 90% of Iranian oil exports is pumped out of this one location, Kark Island. It's Karg Island. The town is called Karg, on the island. So on Karg Island, 90% of all oil coming out of Iran is being exported through this one terminal here on Karg Island. And it's actually relatively close. It's relatively close here to Khuzestan, right there. And so predominantly the lion's share of the oil from mainland of Iran is pumped here, shipped here, and exported from here. You pump it here, you export it here, and you ship it out. Very curious. This is a big development here. The Khuzastanis, they're saying, listen, we want to move on beyond the regime. We want unity. We see a future beyond the current psychotic Iranian regime. We have a statement here. Let's take a look at this one on another note. U.S. has asked Israel to stop striking energy targets in Iran. Let's read through this report. Oops. Hit the wrong button. There we go. The U.S. government has urged Israel not to carry out further strikes on Iran's energy and oil infrastructure, marking the first time it has restrained Israeli action since their joint operations began 10 days ago. Washington's concerns include civilian harm, post-war cooperation with Iran's oil sector, and risks of broader regional retaliation that could disrupt global energy markets. We saw, and I zoom out, we saw reports actually corroborating this notion the other day, maybe a day and a half ago, following the Israeli airstrikes on, there's an Iranian oil refinement facility right here. Massive Iranian oil refinement center. Tehran Oil Refinery. Israel, about a day and a half, maybe 2 days ago, blew the living hell out of this thing. This thing right here, we have a 3D view. Israel flew on in and just blew and that was that massive fire. We saw massive fire, massive explosions. It seems like the U.S. was actually not really happy about that. It seems like the United States wants all of the Iranian energy infrastructure, oil infrastructure, to remain intact. And the reason why is because U.S., the United States, Trump, wants, ultimately, once this thing is all said and done, Trump wants to work out an oil deal. Trump wants in on the Iranian oil. Well, we can't have an Iranian oil deal after all of this is done. U.S. gets 10% or whatever it is. We can't have a deal if Israel has blown up all of the oil infrastructure. We need the oil infrastructure intact. And so perhaps Trump was not so happy about these Israeli airstrikes on the infrastructure. So now we have a report today saying, okay, listen, Israel, it's fine. Continue taking out IRGC targets, leadership, whatever, missile storage facilities, etc. But leave the oil alone. Trump wants the oil. Now, notably, back to Karg Island. Where the hell are we? It's a big country. Back to Karg Island here. The United States and Israel, we have not dropped any missiles, bombs, anything else on this entire island. This island here remains unscathed. The United States and Israel, we have not done so much as harm one hair on the head of this island, figuratively. And the reason why is because we want this island intact. We want this island. We want this island. 90% of the oil goes through this island. Don't blow it up. Seize it and maybe take control of it. Don't bomb it to high hell. I think Trump wants to be in control of this island. Why would you blow up the oil infrastructure here if you can just take control of the oil infrastructure? So a lot of people are speculating, we've been speculating here, that very soon, at some point in the near future, the United States is probably going to try to take control of this location here. This is a very geostrategic location. Don't blow it up. Take control of it. That seems to be part of the dynamic here. Coming out of the Babylon Bee, Iran has issued a warning saying that it has a huge stockpile of supreme leaders. Iran has a huge stockpile of supreme leaders ready to go. Okay, folks, hold up. We have red alerts on the northern Israel border. Pause the show. Hold your horses. We've got red alerts here. We have confrontation line disputes. This is in the far north of Israel. In fact, as far north as you can possibly go. Seems like Hezbollah is taking shots at the IDF, or otherwise vice versa. And also what appears to be hostile aircraft intrusion. Now, these alerts generally end up not really being that big of a deal. This is not a ballistic missile inbound. This is not rockets inbound. You think we can see anything? Make sure our feed is live here. We've got eyes in North Israel right now. Do we see anything abnormal at all at the moment? Well, perhaps not. And I would suppose that if we go back and take a look at these alerts, I think these are probably going to get cleared out here any moment now. Let's get back to our news. Breaking news, USS Abraham Lincoln miraculously...
In just 10 seconds, enough sunlight reaches the Earth to
It really is astounding. It really is astounding, isn't it, that this thing is still floating given all of the AI super weapons Iran has been deploying. Thank God, that really is astounding. Okay, that's enough of the fake news aside. Breaking news, this is real news. Breaking news, Iranian officials have, quote, ruled out any plans for a ceasefire. Oh, once more. Iranian officials have, quote, ruled out any plans for a ceasefire or negotiations with Israel and the United States. Details include the statement... These are more confrontation line alerts. These are not, okay, folks, these are not ballistic missile alerts. I think do not worry about these ones. There are no missiles inbound. Disputes on the confrontation, they're taking shots at each other, I think. The statement comes as Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu said they are not done yet. Israel's not done. U.S. Defense Secretary Hegseth said today, that's what we're watching right now, would be the most intense day of strikes inside of Iran yet. So, folks, that is what we are on the lookout for today. I've gathered you all here today. It's going to be a big, big offense against Iran. United Arab Emirates' largest oil refinery, called Ruwais, has shut down today after a drone attack. Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Iraq have cut oil production, by 6.7 million barrels per day. U.S. oil prices have rebounded back above $90 per barrel. Can we take a look at crude oil futures? Let me take a look. Where are we at right now? This thing is ping-ponging up and down. Okay, we're at $84. 84, these are crude oil futures. Can we give you 5 days? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, a week ago, actually 5 days ago, 75. It spiked up on Sunday night up to 115. Remember that a couple days ago, everybody was panicking, having a total meltdown. And markets open on Monday, and Trump is slowly getting a hold on this situation. Trump is bringing prices back down. He's reassuring everyone here. Don't panic, calm down. We are going to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, incrementally, it is getting reopened slowly, hour by hour. Hour by hour, it is getting reopened. We've seen that. And where do we leave off? This is in Iran right now. They have this is not, is this AI? Is this real or not? This looks like a South Park character. Hold on, is this real? Instead of having an actual Supreme Leader, they have a cardboard cutout of the Supreme Leader. Okay, hold up, folks. I need to look into it. There's no way this is real. Can we get a confirmation on this? Breaking. Iran's newly appointed Supreme Leader, Qutb Khamenei, couldn't turn up, so they pulled out the cardboard cutout of him instead. Oh my gosh, it is real. Oh my God, it is real. It is real. We have a longer video. You've got to be kidding me. Wait a minute. This is footage coming out of Iran. Wait just a minute. Are they going to bring out the cardboard?
پس از بررسی‌های دقیق و گسترده و استفاده از ظرفیت اصل 108 قانون اساسی مطابق وظیفه شرعی و اعتقاد به حضور در محضر خداوند متعال در اجلاسی فوق‌العاده امروز آیت الله.
Okay, are they bringing out the cardboard or what? Okay, well, in this video they have photos. Okay, you know what? To be fair, here they just have pictures. They don't have any cardboard. On this one, I don't see any cardboard. They do have like a rally here of all the diehard party loyalists. We love the Supreme Leader. We love it. Yeah, that cardboard one, that might have been AI. I just don't know about that. Just because it seems so crazy. The Islamic regime in Iran issues another death threat against President Trump. So last night, President Trump said that if the Iranian regime shuts down the Strait of Hormuz, he's going to hit them harder than ever, 20 times harder. Death, fire, and fury will rain down upon them. That's President Trump. He said that last night. Now, Ali Larijani, representative for the Iranian government right now, he said, the Ashura-loving nation of Iran does not fear your paper threats. Even those greater than you could not eliminate the Iranian nation. Watch out for yourself, lest you be eliminated. Well, yeah, that most certainly is a death threat. And he's directly responding to President Trump. Watch out for yourself, President Trump, lest you be eliminated. Now, you can't help, beyond the death threat, he says, paper threats. America, Trump is issuing paper threats. Dude, we blew up your Supreme Leader. Like, less than 2 weeks ago, we blew up the Supreme Leader. We have also taken out God knows how many key members of the IRGC and of the Iranian political leadership class. The country is in tatters. The Iranian military, the leadership, the IRGC is completely, almost entirely destroyed. At this point, 10 days later, they're launching maybe 6 or 7% of the missiles and drones that they were launching 10 days ago. They can barely even mount a defense. What are you talking about? Paper threats? I think President Trump's threats are very real. They seem to be very real to me. I would not call them paper threats. But anyway, now they are making death threats against the president. All right, there you have it, Larijani. We have another update right here. By the way, there is another confrontation line red alert on North Israel. Don't worry about that one too much. Captain Dumbass here. He says, Cardboard Khomeini, what a timeline. Yeah, maybe so. Now they have a cardboard Supreme Leader. Ladies and gentlemen, and by the way, thank you, Captain Dumbass. This is breaking news that I see. Everybody is talking about this right now. Everybody is talking about this. Iran may deploy mines in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. intelligence indicates Iran is preparing to deploy naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz using small vessels carrying 2 to 3 mines each. Estimates suggest Iran's stock ranges from 2,000 to 6,000 mines of Iranian, Chinese, and Russian origin, posing a potential threat to shipping in the critical waterway. So now we're getting reports, and everybody's talking about this right now. This is the big news of the last 20 or 25 minutes. The Iranian regime is potentially preparing to deploy naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, here's the first thing I'll tell you. We saw that China was pretty upset with Iran over the last 24 hours. China gets a huge amount of their oil from Iran. Specifically, about 15% of their oil import comes from Iran. And because of this conflict, China has lost that oil import that otherwise was coming out of Iran. And so China has been negotiating with the Iranians. A big development in the last 24 hours here is that the Iranians have said, okay, China, we are not going to blow up your vessels.
This season, you've got places to go, people to see, and things to do. You may have already gotten vaccinated.
Vessels are allowed to go through, but the shutdown still remains in effect for everybody else. And so over the last 24 hours, we have actually been seeing Chinese vessels go through the Strait of Hormuz, and you can see two of them right here. This is live. You can see two Chinese tankers going through right now with their transponders on. Other vessels are going through the Hormuz with their transponders off, but now China, they've been given the green light by the Iranians, and they're sailing on through uninhibited. We can visually see that happening. And so here's my question right now. Here's my question. If Iran is now preparing to place underwater mines, naval mines, in the Strait of Hormuz, are these mines discriminate or are they indiscriminate? Meaning, if Iran puts mines out in the Hormuz, what if the mines accidentally blow up Chinese tankers? Most certainly they don't want that. Of course, maybe they want to blow up some European tanker or American tanker or whatever else, but surely they don't want to blow up Chinese tankers. And so do the mines that they are allegedly going to be deploying, are they able to pick and choose? Now, I want to do a little bit of research here. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me here, folks. I want to do some research into the nature of these Iranian mines. And while I do a little bit of research here, you guys can listen to the lovely streets of Beirut. The streets of Beirut. I'm going to put together a report for you guys. Right there in the center of Beirut, that is a hospital. It's the most illuminated building in the city. So anybody that gets wounded or anything else by Hezbollah or whatever, they can go to the hospital. Okay, here, I have some info here. Iran's naval mine inventory, as referenced in the X-Post that we just read through, is estimated at 2,000 to 6,000 units, encompassing domestically produced models as well as those acquired or reverse engineered from Chinese and Russian sources. These mines form a key part of Iran's asymmetric warfare strategy, particularly for potentially disrupting shipping in choke points like Strait of Hormuz. We have a breakdown. They actually have numerous different types of mines. They have the M08, which is a Soviet or Russian model. It's a basic contact mine. It detonates on physical impact, limited to shallower waters. The explosive charge for this mine is 250 pounds. So this is not a smart mine. Just anybody that bumps into it is going to blow up. Well, that's not going to work because right now, the Iranians are trying to have Chinese vessels sail through. And God forbid they blow up their own trade partner, the Chinese. There's another type of mine. It's called the MDM6. This is Russian made. This is an influence mine, meaning it's triggered by pressure, acoustic, or magnetic signatures. That also does not seem like a smart mine. It seems like anybody that comes close, anybody that kind of, moves the water in the area of the mine is going to blow up also. Meaning it is indiscriminate. That could blow up a Chinese vessel also. There's another type of mine that the Iranians have access to. It's called the EM52. This is a Chinese-made mine. It is rocket-propelled. It's a rocket-propelled rising mine. It sits on the seabed and then launches a rocket at detected targets. And it detects the targets by, once again, acoustic, magnetic, and pressure sensors. This is very effective against larger vessels, and this packs a 600-pound explosive. So this is also not a smart mine, meaning it is indiscriminate. This one sits on the bottom of the sea floor, and then when somebody sails over top, it detects it, and then it launches up. But that could very easily be a Chinese boat or an American boat. There's another mine that they have called the EM50. It's a Chinese Iranian-produced variant. Okay, so here's the deal, folks. I don't think the Iranians have any type of mine, naval mine, that would be able to differentiate between friendly targets and enemy targets. Meaning, that if the Iranians actually start putting mines in the water, they risk blowing up friendly tankers, namely the Chinese. So, I'll give you my opinion here for whatever it's worth. I don't think the Iranians are going to do this. I don't think they're going to put mines in the water. I don't think they will. And the reason why is because they might accidentally blow up themselves, or they might accidentally blow up one of their friends, the Chinese. I don't think they're going to do it. Most of these mines use influence triggers. Acoustic for engine noise, magnetic for hole signatures, pressure for water displacement, making them